The housekeeper thought she was alone and started to handle the mobster's stashed cash. But the mob boss saw everything, and what happened next left everyone in shock. Comment what you thought of this story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and tell me what city you're watching from. I really want to know if you liked my story and get to know you better. So subscribe to my channel to support my work. I'm counting on your help. The rain beat hard against the windows of the Moretti building when Clara Evans crossed the marble lobby for the first time, carrying her old bag and a bucket of cleaning supplies. It was 6 in the morning on a grey Thursday, and she still couldn't believe her luck in getting this job. The outsourced cleaning company had been clear. The top-floor apartment was sacred territory. It had to be impeccable, and she should never ask questions about the resident. Clara didn't ask questions. She had learned long ago that too many questions attracted unwanted attention, and attention was the last thing she was looking for. Ever since she fled Havenwood, Ohio, leaving behind a marriage that almost killed her and a daughter who cried in her dreams every night, Clara had only one goal: to save enough money to bring Sophie close to her. The girl was with her grandmother Sharon, safe but distant, and every day away from her was an open wound in Clara's chest. Leo Moretti's apartment was a world apart: noble wood floors, furniture that seemed hand-picked, works of art on the walls that Clara had only seen in magazines. Everything was extremely organized, almost impersonal, as if no one really lived there. She cleaned in silence, moving through the rooms like a ghost, always on Thursdays when he wasn't there. For 3 months, this routine repeated without variation. Clara knew every corner of that apartment, every object, every detail. She knew he drank expensive whiskey, that he read books on history and philosophy, that he had closets full of perfectly aligned suits. But she had never seen the owner of it all. To her, Leo Moretti was just a name on a list, an absence that paid well. Leo, for his part, knew of her existence only from the weekly security reports. Housekeeper, 28 years old, no prior record. He had never paid attention, never cared. People like her were invisible in his world, interchangeable parts in a larger machine. His empire demanded all his attention, every move calculated, every decision weighed. There was no room for distractions. But on that rainy Thursday in March, everything changed. Clara was cleaning the master bedroom when she accidentally bumped into the built-in wardrobe. One of the doors, which was always locked, was ajar. Her heart raced. She knew she shouldn't, knew it was wrong, but curiosity was stronger. She pushed the door slowly and found a narrow passage leading to a secret closet. Inside, among expensive clothes and boxes of imported shoes, was a wall safe. And the safe was open. Clara froze, her eyes fixed on the perfectly organized stacks of dollars. There was so much money there she couldn't even estimate the amount. Her first instinct was to close everything and run, pretending she had never seen anything. But then she thought of the call she had received the night before, her grandmother Sharon's tearful voice saying that Sophie had a high fever, that she needed expensive medicine, that the money Clara sent wouldn't be enough this time. Her hands trembled as she took a single stack. Just one, she thought, trying to justify it. In the midst of so much money, who would notice? She could pay for Sophie's medicine. Maybe even bring the girl to live with her a few months earlier. It was just this once, never again. She hid the money in the inner pocket of her uniform and left the closet. Her heart beating so loud she was sure someone could hear it. That's when she saw Leo Moretti for the first time. He was standing in the bedroom doorway, blocking the only exit. Tall, over 6 feet, broad shoulders under a black dress shirt, dark, perfectly combed hair, green eyes that watched her with an intensity that made Clara feel completely exposed. There was no anger on his face, not yet. Just a cold, calculating curiosity. Clara felt her legs weaken. This was the end. He would call the police, or worse. She had heard stories about powerful men like him, about what happened to those who challenged them. She thought of Sophie, of how the girl would be if something happened to her. He asked how much she took, his voice deep and controlled, without alteration. She couldn't speak. Her throat was tight, her eyes burning with tears she refused to shed. Finally, with trembling hands, she took the stack from her pocket and held it out to him. Leo didn't move to take it. He continued to watch her, those green eyes dissecting every detail of her face, her slumped posture, her evident fear. He said he had asked a question. She whispered that it was $5,000, her voice breaking. She swore she would pay it back, every cent. She pleaded, saying she needed this job, that she had a daughter. He then asked why she took it. The question caught her off guard. She expected accusations, threats, not this almost clinical curiosity. Clara swallowed hard, forcing herself to look at him. If she was going to lose everything anyway, she might as well preserve her dignity. She explained her daughter was sick, that her grandmother didn't have the money for the medicine. She confessed she saw all that money and thought he wouldn't notice such a small amount missing. It was wrong, she knew, but she was desperate. Leo took a step toward her, and Clara instinctively backed away until her back hit the wall. He stopped a yard away, still observing her with that unsettling intensity. He asked if she knew who he was. She replied that she knew he lived here, that he was rich, that she should never have. He cut her off, asking if she knew what he did. Clara shook her head, genuinely confused. Leo let out something that might have been a smile if it weren't so devoid of humor. "Better that way," he said. He turned, walking to the window. The rain continued to fall outside, turning Chicago into a gray, indistinct mass. He spoke of the $5,000 she stole from someone who could make her disappear without a trace. Fear once again tightened its grip on Clara's chest. She begged him, "Please." He changed the subject, asking how much she earned per month. The shift disoriented her. $1,200, she answered. And was that enough for her and her daughter, he inquired. She said no, which was why her daughter was with her grandmother in the country. She was saving to bring her, but with rent, food, transportation. He asked how long it had been since she had seen her. The question hit Clara like a punch. The tears she had been holding back finally escaped. 2 years, she cried. Sophie was 6 when she came to Chicago. Now she's 8, and barely recognizes her when she calls. Leo continued to look out the window, his hands in his pants pockets. The silence stretched for long minutes. Clara didn't know if she should speak, if she should leave, if she should beg. She stood there, paralyzed, awaiting the verdict. When he finally spoke, his voice had a different quality, softer yet somehow more dangerous. He was going to make a proposal. She could accept, or she could leave now with her $5,000 and never come back. She asked what kind of proposal. He turned to face her again. He needed someone trustworthy working for him, someone who would live here, take care of the apartment, be available when he needed. There was a smaller apartment on the 10th floor of this building. She would live there, bring her daughter, and receive $5,000 a month, plus all expenses paid. Clara blinked, incredulous. "Why?" she asked. "Why would he do that?" "Because she was honest with him just now," he explained. "She could have lied, made up a story, but she didn't." He walked toward her, stopping so close she could feel the heat radiating from him. And because there was something about her that intrigued him, he added, something that made him believe he could trust her. "But you don't even know me," she said. He knew enough. He knew she had fled a violent marriage. He knew she had left everything behind to protect her daughter. He knew she worked 16 hours a day at 3 different jobs. He knew she was a survivor. He tilted his head, studying her face. The question was, did she accept? Every instinct in Clara screamed that this was dangerous, that something was wrong. that men like him didn't do favors without expecting something in return. But the image of Sophie, small and sick, needing her, was stronger. She accepted. In the days that followed, Clara discovered that her new life was simultaneously a dream and a nightmare. The apartment on the 10th floor was larger than any place she had ever lived, clean and furnished, with a view of the city. Leo arranged everything for Sophie's arrival: plane tickets, documents, enrollment in a nearby private school. The girl arrived on a sunny April morning, thin and shy, looking at everything with wide eyes. She could barely believe it, running from room to room, touching everything with reverence, asking her mum if this was where they were going to live. Clara hugged her tightly, feeling complete for the first time in a long time. "Yes, my love," she said. "This is it." But with the joy came the gradual understanding of who Leo Moretti really was. Clara began to notice things: the strange meetings that took place late at night in his apartment, the men in dark suits who came and went, the coded conversations she occasionally overheard while cleaning. The pieces began to fall into place when she accidentally saw a news report about a police operation against organized crime in Chicago, and the Moretti name was mentioned, albeit indirectly. She was living under the protection of a criminal. The initial panic gave way to a deeper confusion because Leo was never anything but respectful to her. He kept his distance, rarely spoke more than necessary, never made any advances. But there were moments when she felt his eyes on her, an intensity that made her skin tingle, and there were nights when, unable to sleep, she would go to the balcony of her apartment and find him on his balcony, 2 floors above, both observing the sleepless city. It was on one of those nights that they had their first real conversation since the day of the theft. Clara was on her balcony, trying to process everything she had discovered, when she heard his voice from above. He stated that she had found out. It wasn't a question. Clara looked up and saw his silhouette against the Chicago night sky. She confirmed it. He asked if she was going to leave. She should. Everything in her said to take Sophie and run as far as possible. But there was Sophie sleeping peacefully for the first time in years, without nightmares, without fear. There was the good school, the medicine the girl needed, the security they had never had. She didn't know, she answered honestly. Should she? Probably. He replied after a pause, but he hoped she wouldn't. Why? She asked. Because you remind me of something I lost a long time ago, he said. What was that? Humanity. The word hung between them, heavy with meaning. Clara felt something move in her chest, a connection she didn't want to feel, shouldn't feel. She asked who he really was, Leo. He didn't answer immediately. When he spoke, his voice carried a deep weariness. He was someone who was once different, who had a family, dreams, a normal life, until the day it was all taken from him. She asked what happened. His family was murdered when he was 20, he explained, his voice devoid of emotion, as if reciting facts about someone else. His father, his mother, his younger sister. He was in college when he got the call. When he got home, they were already dead. The police never caught those responsible. He found out who did it on his own, and he made sure they paid. You killed them, she stated. Yes, Clara should have been terrified, should have grabbed Sophie and fled that very moment. But all she could feel was a deep sadness for this man who had lost everything. And after, she asked. After, he discovered he was good at it. At finding people, at solving problems, at doing what others didn't have the courage to do. He built an empire on ash and blood, and he convinced himself it was enough. But it wasn't, she said. No, he admitted, and for the first time she heard something like vulnerability in his voice. He told her he wasn't a good man, Clara, that he had done things that would make her hate him if she knew, but since she appeared in his life, He what? He prompted. He had started to wonder if there was another way to live. The silence that followed was different from the previous ones. There was an intimacy to it, a mutual recognition of wounds and survival. Clara found herself wanting to go up to his balcony, wanting to touch him, wanting to offer some kind of comfort. The intensity of the desire frightened her. She finally said that she wasn't who he thought she was either. She wasn't strong, not brave, just a woman trying to survive and protect her daughter. "That's exactly what makes you strong," he replied. In the following months, a strange routine was established. Clara took care of Leo's apartment during the day, while Sophie was at school. She learned to recognize the signs of when he'd had a difficult night. The coffee cups scattered on the table, the papers burned in the fireplace even on hot days, the lingering smell of cigar smoke he only indulged in when tense. On those days, she worked in even deeper silence, respecting his space, but always leaving something small to show she cared. An open window to air out the room, fresh flowers in the living room vase, his favorite whiskey restocked. At night, after the girl slept, she and Leo would meet on his balcony, talking about everything and nothing. He told stories of Italy that his grandparents had told him, of the dreams he had before everything fell apart. He spoke of the small village in Calabria where his family came from, of the ancient olive trees and the impossibly blue sea. She spoke of Havenwood, about what it was like growing up in the country, about the small pleasures she had forgotten in the struggle for survival. She described the cold winter mornings with fog covering the hills, the taste of spring water straight from the source, the starry nights without the light pollution of the big city. There was a delicacy in these nightly conversations that completely contrasted with the hardness of Leo's world. He revealed layers of himself that Clara suspected no one else knew. He talked about the mother who made Sunday roast, about the father who was a woodworker with calloused but gentle hands, about the sister who wanted to be a ballerina and filled the house with Tchaikovsky's music. They were precious memories, kept like relics from a life that no longer existed. Clara, in turn, allowed herself to remember good things too. Afternoons at her aunt's farm, running through the cornfields, the smell of homemade bread that filled her grandmother Sharon's kitchen, the county fairs, with their colorful stalls and music that played late into the night. They were memories from before Mark, before fear became a constant companion. The attraction between them grew daily, palpable and dangerous. There were moments when Clara would be cleaning his apartment and feel Leo's eyes on her, hot and intense. She would pretend not to notice, concentrating excessively on the task at hand, but her skin tingled under his gaze. Moments when she passed him in a narrow hallway and the proximity of their bodies made the air seem thinner, charged with a tension neither dared to name. Moments when their hands accidentally touched, reaching for the same thing, and an electric current seemed to pass between them, making both recoil as if burned. The unspoken desire hung between them like a physical presence, growing stronger and more impossible to ignore with each encounter. But neither of them did anything about it. There were lines that could not be crossed, social and moral barriers that were too great. He was a criminal, she a mother, trying to give her daughter a better life. Anything between them would be wrong on every possible level. Sophie, innocent and perceptive in the way only children can be, adored Leo. He was kind to her in a way that surprised Clara, talking to the girl as if she were an adult, listening to her school stories with genuine attention. He never feigned interest or patronized the child. When Sophie talked about her drawings, he really looked, asking questions about the chosen colors and details. When she explained the complicated rules of some game she had invented, he listened seriously, as if they were matters of importance. Sometimes Clara found them playing chess in the living room, Leo teaching patiently, while Sophie laughed at her own mistakes. He had given the girl a special chess set with hand-carved pieces that had belonged to his father. The gesture had made Clara cry when she found out, understanding the deep meaning of sharing that family heirloom with her daughter. "He's nice, Mum," Sophie said one night as Clara put her to bed. "Do you like him?" The question made Clara's heart race. "He's my boss, Sophie. But do you like him the way princesses like princes in stories?" "Real life isn't like stories, my love." "It should be," the girl murmured, already half asleep. "You deserve a prince." Clara kissed her daughter's forehead, her heart tight. Sophie didn't know that her supposed prince had hands stained with blood, that the castle they lived in was built on crime and violence. But maybe the child was right in a way Clara didn't want to admit. She was falling in love with Leo Moretti. The realization crystallized one June night when Clara woke to strange noises coming from Leo's apartment. Worried, she went up and found the door ajar. Inside, the apartment was partially destroyed, furniture overturned, glass broken, and Leo was sitting on the sofa, his shirt torn and stained with blood. "My God, what happened?" Clara cried. Running to him, her hands automatically searching for injuries. "It's not my blood," he said, his voice tired. "But you should leave. Now is not a good time. You're hurt. I've seen worse." "Let me see," she insisted. There was a deep cut on his arm, still bleeding. Clara went for the first aid kit, her hands surprisingly steady as she cleaned and bandaged the wound. Leo watched her in silence, something changing in his expression. "Why aren't you afraid of me?" he asked suddenly. "Who said I'm not? You're here, taking care of me after seeing all this. A sensible person would be running." Clara finished tying the bandage and finally looked into his eyes. "I should be afraid. I should take Sophie and run as far away as possible. But when I look at you, I don't see a monster. I see a man who lost everything and did what he thought he had to do to survive. I see someone who is kind to my daughter, who treats me with respect, who makes me feel—" She stopped, realizing she was saying too much. "Who makes you feel what, Clara?" The way he said her name, low and intense, made something break inside her. "Who makes me feel alive for the first time in years?" Leo pulled her closer, his large hands cupping her face with surprising gentleness. "I shouldn't want you. You deserve someone better, someone clean, someone who can give you a normal life." "What if I don't want normal?" she asked. "What if I want you? Then you're as crazy as I am." When he kissed her, Clara felt as if she were falling and flying at the same time. The kiss was intense, desperate, years of loneliness and pain meeting in a moment of pure connection. His hands were in her hair, on her back, pulling her closer as if he feared she might disappear. And she surrendered completely, forgetting all the reasons why this was a terrible idea. When they finally broke apart, both were breathless. Leo rested his forehead against hers, his eyes closed. "This changes everything," he said. "I know, you'll be in danger. The people I deal with, the enemies I have, I already live in danger," she said. "I've lived in danger my whole life. At least now it's my choice." That night, Clara crossed every line she had sworn never to cross. She gave herself to Leo completely, and he to her in an explosion of passion and need that left them both transformed. It wasn't just sex. It was a fusion of two damaged souls finding solace in each other. It was unspoken promises of protection and loyalty. It was the recognition that, against all odds, they had found something real in the midst of chaos. The weeks that followed were the happiest Clara had ever experienced. She and Leo kept their relationship discreet, aware that revealing too much could put everyone in danger. But there was a new lightness in him, an openness that didn't exist before. He laughed more, spent more time at home, played with Sophie as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Clara allowed herself to dream of a different future. Maybe Leo could leave that life. Maybe they could start over somewhere else, be a real family. She knew it was naive, that his world didn't allow for easy exits, But love has the power to make you believe in the impossible. Reality came knocking one September afternoon. Clara was walking home from school with Sophie when she noticed a black car parked in front of the building. Something in her instinct made her stop, pulling her daughter back. That's when she saw Mark, her ex-husband, getting out of the car. Time seemed to freeze. Mark was different, thinner, with a new hardness in his eyes, but the cruel smile was the same one that haunted her nightmares. "Hi, Clara. Long time no see." Sophie hid behind her mother, frightened. Clara gently pushed her toward the building entrance. "Go home, Sophie. Now, but Mom, now!" The girl ran and Clara faced the man who had almost destroyed her. "What do you want?" "I came to get my family. Did you think you could run from me, hide my daughter?" "Sophie isn't yours," she retorted. "You lost any right to her when you raised your hand to me." Mark took a step toward her, and Clara forced herself not to back down. "I found out some interesting things about your new life, Clara. Living in a fancy apartment, your daughter in an expensive school. Who's paying for all this? Your new boyfriend?" "That's none of your business." "It is," he sneered, "especially when I found out your boyfriend is Leo Moretti. You know, my brother Rick works for his rivals. Small world, isn't it?" Clara's blood ran cold. Rick Shaw. She had heard that name a few times in the conversations Leo had in the apartment, always in a threatening tone. Mark continued, enjoying her shock. "Rick told me everything. About the war that's going on, about how Moretti is losing territory, and about how convenient it would be to have some leverage against him. You and the girl, for example. You wouldn't dare. Wouldn't I? You know me, Clara. You know what I'm capable of." He smiled, the gesture full of malice. "But it doesn't have to be this way. Come back home with me. Bring Sophie, and I'll forget everything I've found out. I'd rather die. That can be arranged too." That's when Leo appeared, exiting the building so silently that Mark didn't see him until it was too late. In a swift movement, Leo had Mark's arm twisted behind his back, immobilizing him completely. "Touch her again and you won't live to regret it," Leo said, his voice low and deadly. Mark tried to struggle, but it was useless. "You don't know who you're messing with. My brother. Your brother is a problem I'll solve soon enough. You're just an insect I had the displeasure of encountering." Leo glanced at Clara, checking if she was okay, before turning his attention back to Mark. "I'm going to give you one chance. A single chance. Get out of Chicago today. Disappear. Forget Clara and Sophie exist. If I ever see you again, if I hear that you tried to contact them, there will be no place in the world where you can hide from me." He released Mark with a shove, and the man fell to his knees on the ground. Mark looked at both of them, pure hatred in his eyes, but there was also fear. He staggered to his feet and walked back to the car, not without casting one last look at Clara. This isn't over. When the car sped away, Leo pulled Clara into his arms. She was trembling, the adrenaline finally giving way to fear. "Sophie. She's safe. She's upstairs with 2 of my men. No one will hurt her. He knows, Leo. He knows about us, about you. And his brother. I know." Leo held her tighter. "We need to talk." In his apartment, with Sophie safe in hers with guards at the door, Leo revealed the extent of the danger they were all in. The turf war that had been fought in the shadows was escalating, and Rick Shaw, Mark's brother, was among the leaders of the rival faction. Discovering about Clara and Sophie gave them a dangerous advantage. "I'm sending you away," Leo said, each word visibly costing him. "You and Sophie. I'll arrange for new documents, money, a house in another state, where you can start over safely. No, Clara." "No," she repeated more firmly. "I spent years running, hiding, living in fear. I'm not doing it again, and I'm not leaving you. If you stay, you could die. Sophie could die. And if I leave, you'll die trying to protect people who aren't here anymore. I know you, Leo. I know you'll do something stupid and suicidal because you'll feel guilty." He didn't deny it. Instead, he ran his hands through his hair, frustrated and desperate. "Then tell me what to do." How do I protect you and still solve this? Clara went to him, taking his face in her hands. You don't do it alone. We do it together. You, me, the people you trust. We find a solution that doesn't involve me running away or you sacrificing yourself. I don't want you involved in this. I'm already involved. The moment I fell in love with you, I sealed my fate to yours, for better or for worse. The open admission of her love seemed to break something in him. Leo pulled her into a desperate kiss, full of fear and promises. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you in a way I didn't know was possible, and I'm terrified of losing you. Then don't lose me. Fight for us, but fight the right way. The following days were tense and full of planning. Leo gathered his most trusted allies, and Clara was included in the discussions not as a victim to be protected, but as a partner with an active voice. She discovered she had an unexpected aptitude for strategy, her outsider's perspective providing insights that men accustomed to that world couldn't see. The situation reached a critical point when Sophie disappeared. It was a Saturday morning. Clara had gone out to buy bread, leaving the girl watching cartoons with one of Leo's guards. When she returned 15 minutes later, the guard was unconscious on the floor and Sophie was gone. There were no signs of a struggle, no witnesses, just a note left on the table. If you want the girl back, Moretti knows what he needs to do. Clara fell apart. All the strength, all the courage she had shown in recent months evaporated in the face of the reality that Sophie was in the hands of dangerous men. Leo held her as she sobbed. His own expression, a mask of contained fury. I'll get her back, he promised. I swear on everything that exists that I will bring our daughter back. The word "our" did not go unnoticed by Clara. Sophie had become his daughter too, in every way that mattered. The rescue was planned with military precision. Leo gathered all the resources he had, called in favors from people in strategic positions, and assembled an operation that would be executed with absolute perfection. But Clara knew it wasn't enough. She knew Mark's brother, knew how men like that thought. They expected Leo to come with force, so they would be prepared for it. It was she who suggested the alternative. Let me go, she said, to the consternation of everyone in the room. Let me go negotiate. They won't hurt me, not yet. They want to use Sophie as a bargaining chip, but they also want to see you destroyed. If I go, I can buy time. I can find out exactly where she is. Absolutely not, Leo refused immediately. I won't risk losing you both. You won't lose either of us. But you need to trust me, Clara. Leo, please. She's my daughter, our daughter. Let me do this. The argument lasted for hours, but eventually, Clara got what she wanted. The plan was extremely risky. She would go to the meeting place set by the kidnappers, wearing a hidden microphone that would allow Leo and his men to hear everything. She would negotiate, buy time, and when she could confirm Sophie's location, Leo and his team would act. The abandoned warehouse where the meeting was set was on the east side of Chicago. In a decaying industrial area, Clara entered alone, her heart beating so hard she was sure everyone could hear it. Rick Shaw was there, and with him was Mark, a triumphant smirk on his face. Look who decided to show up, Mark mocked. Moretti's whore. Clara ignored him, focusing on Rick. Where is my daughter? Safe. For now. Rick was older than Mark, with the same cruelty but more intelligence in his eyes. The question is, what are you willing to do to get her back? Anything. Even knowing it means betraying your beloved Leo. My daughter comes before everything, always. Rick smiled, satisfied. Good. Because I'm going to need you to do something very specific for me. What followed was the most difficult negotiation Clara had ever faced. Rick wanted information about Leo's operations, his offshore accounts, his allies. He wanted everything that would allow him to destroy Leo's empire from the inside out. and in return, he promised to return Sophie unharmed. Clara pretended to consider, pretended to be torn, buying precious time. That's when she heard it, very faintly from somewhere in the warehouse, the muffled cry of a child. "Sophie, I want to see my daughter first," she demanded. "I want to make sure she's okay before I agree to anything." Rick hesitated, then shrugged. "Why not? Mark, go get her." When Sophie appeared, dirty and scared, but seemingly unharmed, Clara had to use all her willpower not to run to her. The girl saw her and started crying louder. "Mommy, it's okay, my love. Mommy's here." It was at that moment that everything exploded into action. The warehouse doors were broken down simultaneously from 3 different directions. Leo's men stormed the space, guns drawn. In the ensuing chaos, Clara ran to Sophie, covering the girl's body with her own. Leo appeared like a force of nature, going straight for Rick. The fight between them was brutal and swift. Mark tried to use Clara as a hostage, but she, having been secretly trained by Leo in recent weeks, managed to defend herself long enough for one of the men to immobilize him. When the dust settled, Rick and his men were either surrendered or dead. Mark was on his knees, bleeding and defeated. Leo went to Clara and Sophie, frantically checking if they were both hurt. "Are you okay? Did anyone hurt you?" "We're fine," Clara assured him, hugging Sophie tightly. "We're fine now." Leo wrapped them in his arms, and for a moment the world seemed to shrink to just the 3 of them, united and safe. But reality soon returned. They had won this battle, but the war was far from over. It was the following week, as things began to calm down, that Leo made the decision that would change everything. "I'm getting out," he announced to Clara one evening, the 2 of them alone on the balcony. "Out of this life. Out of all of it." Clara looked at him, incredulous. "How?" "I have contacts, people who owe me favors. I'm going to give information to the authorities, enough to dismantle a good part of the organization. In return, I get immunity and protection to start over. Leo, they'll never let you just walk away. You know too much. That's why I'm going to do it right. I'll make sure everyone who could come after me or you is either in prison or neutralized first. It will take a few months, it will be dangerous, but it's the only way out. Why? Why now?" He pulled her into his arms, looking into her eyes with an intensity that took Clara's breath away. "Because I almost lost you. Because I realized I don't want Sophie to grow up in fear. Because I want to be able to marry you without it being a death sentence. Because I want a real life, not just an existence. Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." The following months were the most difficult and dangerous Clara had ever lived through. Leo executed his plan with the precision that had made him successful in crime, but now directed at getting out of it. There were moments of real danger, moments when Clara was sure they wouldn't survive. But each time, Leo found a way, protecting not only himself, but also her and Sophie. Clara discovered strengths in herself she didn't know she possessed. She became Leo's partner in every sense, helping with the planning, being his eyes and ears where he couldn't be. And through it all, their love only grew, tempered by the fire of adversity. Sophie, with the resilience of children, adapted better than anyone expected. She understood that difficult things were happening, but she also understood that Leo loved them and protected them. To her, he was already a father in all but name. The end came on a cold December morning. The police operations that Leo had helped orchestrate were executed simultaneously throughout Chicago. Dozens of arrests were made, criminal fortunes seized, entire organizations dismantled, and Leo Moretti, the man who had been a central piece of so much of it, emerged on the other side with a new name, a new identity, and a chance to start over. They moved to a smaller city in upstate New York, far from the metropolis and everything it represented. Leo used the money he had legally saved to open an honest business, a construction company that quickly prospered under his skilled management. Clara went back to school, fulfilling her old dream of becoming a teacher. A year later, in a small, intimate ceremony, with only a few close friends and grandmother Sharon, Clara and Leo were married. Sophie was the flower girl, radiant in a light blue dress, finally having the family she had always dreamed of. Life wasn't perfect. Leo still had occasional nightmares about the past, moments when the weight of what he had done and seen threatened to suffocate him. Clara sometimes woke up in the middle of the night, compulsively checking if Sophie was safe, but they had each other, and that made all the difference. Sophie grew up strong and happy, with no real memories of the hard times, only knowing she had a mother who loved her unconditionally and a father who had chosen to be her family. She called Leo Dad without hesitation, and he melted every time he heard the word. On a summer afternoon, 3 years after it all began, Clara was on the porch of their house watching Leo teach Sophie how to ride a bike in the yard. The sun bathed the scene in gold, and she could hear her daughter's laughter mixed with his patient encouragement. "I'm doing it, Dad! I'm doing it! That's it, kiddo! Keep pedaling!" Clara placed a hand on her still flat stomach, where a new life was just beginning to grow. They had told Sophie the night before that she would have a little brother, and the girl had been so excited she could barely sleep. Leo looked up at that moment and met Clara's eyes. His smile was something she would never tire of seeing, genuine, happy, free. He had transformed from a man haunted by ghosts into someone who looked to the future with hope. She walked down to the yard, and he pulled her into his arms, kissing her softly, while Sophie pretended to be grossed out, but laughed at the same time. "Happy?" he asked quietly. "More than I ever imagined possible. Me too." He looked at her, at Sophie, and gently placed a hand on Clara's belly. "I never thought my life could be like this, that I could have this. You deserved this. You always deserved it." "No," he disagreed softly, "but you all made me deserve it. You made me want to be better. You saved me from myself. We saved each other, and it was true." They had found each other in moments of desperation, two broken souls searching for redemption. The path had been dangerous, filled with obstacles that seemed insurmountable, but love, true and transformative, had been stronger than everything. Clara had learned that strength wasn't just surviving, but having the courage to risk loving again. Leo had discovered that redemption wasn't just possible, but achievable through the right choices and the right people. And together they had built something that neither the violence of the past nor the judgment of society could destroy. A true family, formed not by blood or obligation, but by choice, love, and commitment. At night, after putting Sophie to bed, they lay together watching the stars through their bedroom window. Leo held Clara's hand, their fingers intertwined, two simple gold rings shining in the moonlight. "Do you regret anything?" he asked. Clara thought about everything they had been through, every moment of fear and uncertainty, every sacrifice made. She thought of the frightened woman she had been and the strong woman she had become. She thought of Sophie sleeping safely in the next room and the baby growing inside her. "Not a second," she answered. "And you? Only that I didn't find you sooner, that I wasted so many years existing instead of truly being alive. But we found each other, and the rest of our lives is starting now." He pulled her closer, kissing her hair. "I love you, Clara Moretti, today and always." "I love you, Leo. My love, my husband, the father of my children, my redemption and my future." And there in each other's arms, with the past finally at peace and the future shining ahead, they slept. Two people who had found in love the strength to change, to grow, to become better versions of themselves. A story that began in darkness but ended in light, proving that even from the most unlikely places, something beautiful and true can be born. The predator's heart had finally found peace, transformed by the love of a courageous woman and the innocence of a child. And together, they wrote a happy ending that neither of them had dared to dream possible, but that both fully deserved. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. I promise to bring you videos every day that will make your life happier. Comment what you thought of my story, giving it a rating from 0 to 10, and thank you so much.